When Emily awoke from a 5-year coma, her sudden consciousness was initially a cause for celebration among the hospital staff, and her story quickly captured media attention, but the initial joy faded when, upon being asked to speak by her doctor, Emily's face grew serious, casting a shadow over her awakening. She whispered a chilling revelation that left the doctor motionless and filled the room with a palpable sense of dread. "He's been here watching," she said in a hushed tone. Barely audible, Dr. Stevens turned ashen, a chill running down his spine as he leaned in, trying to understand her cryptic message. "Who, Emily?" he inquired, but she only shook her head, her eyes wide and filled with terror, causing a nurse nearby to gasp. The tension in the room thickened, suffocating the air as Emily's parents hurried to her side. They wept with joy at the sight of their daughter awake, embracing her warmly. "Emily, sweetheart, you're awake," her mother exclaimed, enveloping her in a hug, while her father tenderly held her hand, his touch both firm and soft. However, their relief quickly turned to worry as they noticed the fear in Emily's eyes. Glancing nervously around the room, Emily's fragmented memories surfaced. "There was a man," she murmured, her voice shaking. "He used to visit me while I was asleep." Her parents exchanged anxious looks, her mother soothingly stroking her hair. "What man, darling? Can you describe him?" her mother asked gently. Emily shook her head, visibly frustrated by her inability to recall the details. With the alarming news of a mysterious visitor, hospital staff immediately ramped up security. Guards were stationed at every entrance, surveillance was increased, and stringent checks were implemented for anyone approaching Emily. Rumors and whispers about the enigmatic presence spread rapidly through the hospital, creating an atmosphere charged with tension as staff and visitors alike remained vigilant. Concerned about the unseen danger that might still be lurking nearby, overwhelmed by recent events, Emily's parents resolved to monitor her closely. "We need to be by her side," her father declared, with her mother nodding in agreement. "We can't leave her alone, not after everything she's endured." It was a collective decision. They adjusted their personal schedules and alternated shifts by Emily's side, vigilantly watching for any signs of danger. As night deepened, the quiet of the hospital seemed to magnify every small noise until a sharp scream broke the silence. Emily was in her bed, thrashing and pointing desperately at the corner of the room. "He's there, he's there," she screamed. Both nurses and her parents hurried to soothe her. "There's no one here, Emily," her mother soothed as she embraced her, but the terror in Emily's eyes was chilling to all present. The following day, after Emily's frightful night, the hospital staff meticulously examined the security footage. They searched the recordings for any trace of an unusual presence, but after hours of fruitless review, a security guard expressed his frustration, noting, "Nothing. There's no evidence of any suspicious visitors." The absence of proof did nothing to alleviate the tense atmosphere permeating the hospital. With no tangible leads, Emily's parents thought it best to bring her home. Perhaps familiar surroundings will help. Her father proposed, her mother concurred, and though the doctors were hesitant, they agreed, hoping home might offer her some comfort. As they gathered her belongings, the uncertainty lingered. Emily remained silent, her eyes scanning her environment apprehensively. They had hoped that bringing her back home would restore some normalcy to their lives. At home, Emily looked around at the familiar settings. Some aspects, like the family photos along the hallway, coaxed a slight smile from her. However, she felt differently about other areas. She completely avoided her father's study and felt uncomfortable in her old bedroom. "I don't like those rooms," she murmured. Her parents shared a look of concern but remained silent, knowing they needed to be gentle to facilitate her recovery. Despite the comfort her home usually offered, Emily steered clear of her father's study and her former bedroom as if they were contaminated. "Those rooms feel odd," she said, her voice filled with discomfort. Her mother tried to reassure her. "Sweetie, it's okay, you're safe here." But Emily just shook her head, unwilling to approach those areas. The sense of eeriness was too palpable for her, and her parents understood not to press her. On their first night back, the house was eerily silent, which Emily's parents hoped would be conducive to a good night's sleep. However, a sudden series of noises echoed down the hallway, jolting everyone awake. "Did you hear that?" her father whispered, gripping his baseball bat. Emily nodded, her eyes wide with alarm. No one could pinpoint the source of the sounds, leaving the family tense and sleep elusive. Still unsettled by the nocturnal disturbances, Emily's parents decided to take action. "We need the police," her father declared firmly. They promptly called the police, voicing their concerns about a possible break-in. Officers arrived quickly and conducted a thorough inspection of the house. After their search, they reported no signs of forced entry. "There's no sign of forced entry," one officer stated. This was both a relief and a source of frustration for Emily and her family. Emily was not only tormented by eerie sounds but also by vivid nightmares. Each night, the same man she saw during her coma appeared in her dreams. Although his face was blurred, his presence felt undeniably real. "Why won't he leave me alone?" Emily would cry out, waking up drenched in sweat. Her parents became increasingly worried as they realized these were not mere figments of her imagination. Emily's nightmares began to transform into strange flashbacks from her coma, where she could hear the man's voice, soft and unsettlingly familiar, though his face remained obscured. These snippets of conversation, intertwined with her dreams, were confusing and frightening. "He spoke of things I can't piece together," Emily would say softly, trying to make sense of the most troubling fragments. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Emily's parents decided to consult a child psychologist. "We need to help her differentiate her memories," her mother asserted. They turned to Dr. Martinez, a psychologist specializing in trauma and memory recovery. "We'll work together to discern what's real from what's imagined," Dr. Martinez promised, offering a glimmer of hope. With a mutual agreement, they began therapy sessions, hoping it would help clarify Emily's disturbed thoughts. During therapy, Emily began to disclose more about the man from her coma-induced dreams. "He had a peculiar ring," she mentioned, nervously fidgeting. Dr. Martinez leaned forward, intrigued. "Can you describe the ring?" he asked. Emily confirmed, noting a unique mark on it. This piece of information proved to be vital, providing a concrete clue to follow. Her parents, present during the sessions, clung to this new lead, hopeful that it might help unravel the mystery surrounding their daughter's distress. Emboldened by this breakthrough, Emily's parents shared the information about the ring with the police, hoping it would aid in bringing peace to their daughter's troubled mind. She referred to a man with a distinctive ring, which her father relayed to Detective Harris as he attentively made notes. "We will begin a discreet inquiry," he promised, though they recognized the clue was tenuous. In such a perplexing case, every little detail mattered. The police started to investigate potential suspects who matched Emily's description. Concurrently, Emily's behavior became increasingly unpredictable. She would suddenly stop at minor sounds. Her anxiety was constant, and often, she wouldn't leave her room, tightly holding on to her mother. "I don't feel safe," she repeated often. Her parents felt desperate, watching her condition worsen without a way to help. They felt powerless as her situation seemed to only decline. And despite thorough searches, the police couldn't find anyone with a ring like the one Emily described. "We've reached a dead end," the detective confessed in frustration. The elusive lead seemed to go nowhere, leaving everyone baffled. Emily's parents continued to ask for updates, clinging to the hope of a breakthrough. As weeks passed, their hopes slowly diminished, heightening the family's anxiety. In a bid to find some clue, Emily's mother began to sift through old family photographs and papers, poring over them for hours in the attic. "Perhaps we've overlooked something," she muttered as she continued her meticulous search. Her husband joined her, both burdened by the unresolved mystery. Hoping to find something that might aid their daughter, they also spoke to their neighbors to see if anyone had seen anything useful. Mrs. Thompson, from across the street, recalled seeing a man around the time Emily fell into her unexplained state, though she quickly noted he hadn't done anything suspicious. Other neighbors gave similar, vague accounts, none of which added any substantial evidence. The lack of concrete information only compounded the confusion and worry surrounding the enigmatic figure. Emily inadvertently caught snippets of conversations about a mysterious man, which intensified her anxiety and led her to withdraw into silence, complicating communication further. "Emily, are you okay?" her mother inquired softly. Emily merely nodded, avoiding eye contact, clearly overwhelmed. Her parents felt increasingly powerless as her vibrant nature was now overshadowed by her fear of the unidentified man. Seeing the need for additional support, Her father chose to work from home. I need to be here for her, he explained to his employer. He created a temporary workspace in the living room, hoping his presence would lend some stability. Nevertheless, the stress of juggling work and his concern for Emily began to affect him. Casting a pall over the home filled with silent worries and fears, one evening, the family dog began to bark non-stop at the windows, escalating the household's anxiety. What is it, boy? Emily's father attempted to soothe the dog, but the barking persisted, each sound echoing like a warning in the quiet home. Emily gripped her mother, her eyes filled with fear, as the tension within the house thickened and the sense of security diminished. A detective named Sarah developed a keen interest in Emily's situation. She thoroughly examined every aspect of the case, convinced they were overlooking something crucial. There has to be something we've missed, she murmured, poring over notes and reports. Her commitment was clear, and she contacted Emily's parents to collect more information, determined to make a breakthrough. Sarah understood that each small detail might be key to solving the intricate mystery. During a visit to Emily's residence for a face-to-face interview, Sarah introduced herself. Hi Emily, I'm Detective Sarah. Could you describe the man you noticed? She inquired softly. Emily hesitated at first but then began recounting her observations. Sarah paid close attention, taking notes and carefully watching Emily's expressions, committed to connecting the dots no matter how minor they seemed. In the course of their conversation, Emily brought up a peculiar lullaby. He used to hum this tune. It sounds familiar yet disturbing, Emily remarked, trying to recall the tune. Sarah's interest piqued. A lullaby, could you hum a bit of it for me? She asked. Emily nervously hummed a few notes. To Sarah, this small piece of information felt potentially crucial and she recorded it diligently, suspecting it might link to a larger aspect of her case. With this new lead, Sarah started to investigate former caregivers and hospital staff, wondering if perhaps they had missed something essential. Do you recall anyone peculiar inquiring about Emily? She queried each nurse. Their answers were mostly unremarkable, yet Sarah's resolve didn't waver, her belief in the value of persistence unwavering. Finally, a nurse offered a vague memory. There was this man, frequently inquiring about Emily's health, she mentioned, struggling with the specifics. Sarah leaned in, eager for more. Can you describe anything about him? The nurse apologized. I'm sorry, it's all quite vague. Although the information was indistinct, Sarah considered it a lead nonetheless, understanding that even a blurry detail could prove essential. Driven by her detective instincts, Sarah began to suspect that someone within Emily's close circle might be key to unraveling the mystery. There's something we're missing, she muttered to herself, determined to uncover the hidden links in this perplexing case. She carefully analyzed their interactions, attempting to piece together the puzzle. Could it be someone familiar? She pondered aloud. Her growing suspicion, coupled with a noticeable absence of external clues, made her think the truth might be nearer to home than previously thought. As Sarah delved further, Emily's father started to behave more mysteriously. His late-night calls and regular secluded visits to his study raised eyebrows. Why is he excluding me? Emily's mother shared her concerns with Sarah, heightening Sarah's curiosity about whether he was concealing something important. His strange conduct only fueled her resolve to get to the bottom of his secretive actions. One day, while Emily's father was out, Sarah seized the opportunity to examine his study. She discovered a hidden drawer behind some bookshelves. With a bit of effort, she opened it to find old letters and photographs. Who are these people? She whispered, scrutinizing the contents. The correspondence was with someone unknown. Leading to further intrigue, this secret compartment suggested that Emily's father had been keeping things under wraps, deepening the enigma. Upon his return, Emily's mother felt compelled to confront him. What are you concealing? She challenged him, brandishing the discovered letters. His face turned red with fury. You rifled through my belongings, he yelled. The argument escalated quickly, their voices reverberating around the house. Emily, disturbed by the noise, covered her ears. The fierce dispute exacerbated the family's tension, leaving everyone frazzled and desperate for answers. Emily's sleep became increasingly disturbed as she experienced dreams about a secluded cabin in the forest. She recalled this place during a therapy session, revealing that it seemed to be entangled with memories from her coma. Dr. Martinez paid close attention as Emily described the cabin's familiarity. These dreams began to piece together elements that neither Emily nor her family could fully understand. Intrigued, Sarah focused her investigation on a family property alluded to in old correspondence. "This might just be what we need," she suggested to Emily's mother. They examined ancient papers and pinpointed a remote cabin aligning with Emily's accounts. "We should explore it," agreed Emily's mother. And they planned a visit to resolve the mysteries surrounding Emily's unsettling recollections. Accompanied by Sarah, Emily's mother approached the ancestral cabin with increasing excitement. The cabin was silent, nestled deep within the forest. "Let's enter," Sarah murmured softly. They stepped inside the dusty interior, which hinted at recent occupancy. Sarah's flashlight exposed fresh footprints and displaced furniture. "Someone has definitely been here," she noted. The cabin seemed to echo with both a disturbing and recognizable presence. Inside, they came across shocking evidence indicating recent habitation. Sarah pointed out a recently discarded food wrapper and a partially used candle. The atmosphere was laden with hidden stories. They quickly photographed these findings and collected other minor items. "We need to show this to the authorities," declared Emily's mother, as they moved cautiously around the cabin. They felt a growing sense of unease about possible encounters. Their search uncovered a box containing a ring, some aged garments, and a tattered book of lullabies. "These items correspond with Emily's descriptions," Sarah whispered, lifting the ring. The clothing seemed all too familiar, and the lullaby book sent a shiver through her. It was evident that the previous occupant of the room had deep ties to Emily's life, intensifying the urgency and reality of the mystery. An alarming discovery was a diary filled with extensive observations about her family. "He's been monitoring us," Emily's mother said as she sifted through the pages marked with dates and detailed notes. It became clear that they had been under surveillance for many years, collecting all the clues. They cautiously left the area, suspecting they might not be alone. They delivered all the evidence to the police, escalating the investigation while collecting the items in the cabin. A distant sound made them stop in their tracks. "Did you hear that?" whispered Emily's mother, gripping the flashlight more firmly. Sarah listened intently and nodded. "We need to leave now," she said in a hushed tone. They proceeded with heightened caution, sensing the presence of unseen watchers. Leaving the cabin, the feeling of not being alone lingered. Once in the car, Sarah and Emily's mother drove directly to the police station. "We found these at the cabin," Sarah declared. Presenting the evidence, Detective Harris examined the items, his face growing serious. "This is significant," he remarked to his team, signaling a need to step up the investigation. The team felt they were nearing the truth, yet the sense of danger increased. Back at home, Emily's condition worsened, her usually vibrant eyes now shadowed by fear. "I feel it getting closer," she murmured, her voice shaking. Her heightened anxiety was visible to her parents, causing her to become more reclusive and scared. Emily often woke up in tears, her sleep troubled and restless, as a looming truth cast a shadow over her, intensifying her anxiety with each day. Detective Harris zeroed in on the ring, directing his team to uncover its origins. After extensive efforts, they connected it to a man previously associated with Emily's father. "We've got a lead," Harrison declared. Brandishing the suspect's file, the team readied themselves to investigate deeper, hoping this link would lead to crucial revelations. This connection startled and confused Emily's parents, prompting them to reevaluate past incidents and relationships. The investigation uncovered that the man was an old colleague of Emily's father who had harbored a grudge due to a professional dispute years earlier. "This guy had it in for me," admitted Emily's father, visibly disturbed by the realization that an old workplace conflict was now affecting their lives. The family was terrified by the thought that this old vendetta was intruding into their present. Sarah worked closely with the law enforcement, trying to understand how this long-standing grudge had evolved into a sinister obsession with Emily. As Emily's nightmares intensified, she became more distraught. "I can't sleep. He's always there," she sobbed every night, the man's vague visage haunting her dreams and leaving her fearful of shutting her eyes. Her parents alternated nights by her bedside, offering solace, yet the fear persisted relentlessly. During the day, Emily was just as troubled, with the boundaries between reality and her nightmares dangerously blurring. committed to cracking the case. Sarah explored old case files, searching for any recurring patterns. "There has to be more," she muttered, her gaze flicking through numerous reports. To her horror, she identified a disturbing pattern where the man seemed to have stalked multiple families, each exhibiting unsettling similarities to Emily's situation, pointing toward a deeply calculated obsession. This revelation raised more questions than answers. Armed with new resolve, Sarah and the police crafted a strategy to draw the man out, using the distinctive ring as bait, hoping it would prove central to their plan. Sarah detailed the plan, explaining that they had intensified surveillance around Emily's residence in hopes of apprehending him as he tried to recover the ring. Everyone was on edge, fully aware that much was at stake, including Emily's safety, which hinged on the flawless execution of the plan. As the situation evolved, Emily's father became more withdrawn, burdened with guilt for not having anticipated the peril linked to his previous actions. "I should have seen this coming," he whispered. Increasingly isolating himself, Emily noticed his anguish, which compounded her own stress. His emotional withdrawal created a gap that strained the family dynamics. As tension within the household reached a boiling point, despite having set the trap, there was no trace of the man after several days, which only escalated the general unease. "Why hasn't he fallen for it yet?" Sarah pondered. The prolonged wait drained Emily's parents' optimism, while the palpable tension caused Emily to become more reclusive. The agonizing wait, with everyone on high alert for any possible action from the man, took its toll. Emily's behavior grew increasingly erratic, leading her parents to arrange a medical consultation. She was nervous and constantly vigilant, seemingly on the lookout for someone. At the medical checkup, the doctor noted her restless demeanor and anxiety. "We need to determine the root cause of these symptoms," he stated. Her father detailed to Dr. Stevens the severity of her nightmares and erratic behavior, prompting the doctor to crease his forehead in concern and acknowledge the need for a detailed assessment. Dr. Stevens expressed his worries to Emily's parents after observing her closely, suggesting, "We need to conduct some tests." As he walked back and forth, "It appears Emily may be experiencing trauma that we haven't fully identified yet." Her mother, visibly anxious, inquired, "Will these tests harm her?" Dr. Stevens reassured her with a shake of his head, "No. But they are vital to gauge the depth of her issues so we can assist her effectively." Detective Sarah made another visit to Emily's residence, this time with a firm resolve to uncover more details from her father. "I need to understand everything," she pressed. Emily's father exhaled deeply, showing his reluctance, but eventually spoke of past troubles he believed were unrelated. As Sarah pressed on, he nervously glanced around. There were some business deals that didn't exactly go well. They might be related. This confession shed new light, fueling further investigative leads. Ultimately, Emily's father conceded to a murky business transaction from the past. "It was years ago," he began, with a tone of resignation. "A partner and I disagreed, and he held me responsible." Feeling betrayed, Emily's mother was taken aback. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded. Her husband's face was etched with remorse as he admitted, "I never thought it would come back to haunt us this way." Following these disclosures, the family started receiving intimidating messages. The first, discovered by Emily's mother on their doorstep, ominously warned in harsh script, "Stay quiet or suffer." The threats continued to arrive via various channels, including texts, emails, and even scribbled on their car windshield, escalating the family's fear. "We should take these to the police," suggested Emily's father, his voice a mix of fear and indignation. The police took the escalating threat seriously, stepping up their response by bolstering surveillance at Emily's home. Officers were stationed discreetly around the premises, aiming to apprehend the culprit. "We're doing everything possible to ensure your safety," Sarah reassured the family. Emily's parents had strategically placed cameras around the home and set up routine patrols. Each day heightened the family's anxiety as they awaited any sign of the elusive man. Then, late one night, the scenario they dreaded unfolded. A noise at the back door set off alarms, and one officer whispered into his radio, "We've got movement." With meticulous coordination, they encircled the residence, peering through the blinds. Emily's father's heart thudded in his chest. The police acted decisively, catching the man red-handed as he tried to break in. "We've got him," confirmed an officer, stirring a mix of relief and unease. As the officers detained the man, Emily, watching from an upstairs window, should have felt relieved, yet, the surge of adrenaline overwhelmed her, and she gasped as her vision blurred before she fainted. "Emily," her mother cried out, rushing to her, followed by her equally panicked father. Although the threat was contained outside, the fear lingered inside, cutting their relief tragically short. In detention, the man was defiantly silent, holding onto a ring as though it contained his deepest secrets. "Talk to us," Detective Harris pressed, but the man's silence persisted. Sarah watched him intently, her suspicions mounting. "He's hiding something important," she concluded, her mind teeming with theories. The man's persistent silence only intensified the enigma, layering additional complexity onto the case. Sarah and her police team devoted themselves to uncovering the reasons behind the man's actions. Through their persistent investigations, they exposed his perverse fixation. He had previously preyed on other families. Sarah, piecing together clues from old case files, identified a frightening pattern of stalking and harassment tied to the man's former grievances, each piece of evidence contributing to the grim story. This revelation underscored the extent of his obsession, illuminating the peril that Emily and her family had just barely avoided. Speaking weakly, Emily finally broke her silence. "I heard everything while I was comatose," she confessed, her eyes brimming with fear and sorrow. "He spoke of my twin sister," she continued, as her parents looked at each other bewildered. Taking a deep breath, Emily added, "He told me her death was an accident, and it was kept secret." The room grew quiet, the enormity of her revelation weighing heavily on everyone. Emily went on, her voice faltering, "I overheard him and Dad discussing it." Her father's complexion turned pale as he grasped the seriousness of the conversation. They were talking about how her twin sister had died in an accident. Emily's mother stifled a gasp, her hand over her mouth in shock. "You've known all along," Emily affirmed with a nod, her gaze filled with years of concealed terror and grief. The harsh reality was now exposed for all to see. Emily shared how the concealed truth had long tormented her. "I was just an infant when it occurred, and they hid it from me for all these years," she disclosed, her voice trembling. "Learning about it while in a coma triggered my nightmares and fears." Her father, overwhelmed by sorrow and guilt, covered his face with his hands as the room tensed with high-strung emotions. "He visited me often," Emily continued in a hushed tone. "He'd come into the room and whisper about the accident." Her parents were taken aback, struggling to process what they were hearing. "He used the story to haunt me and manipulate you, Dad," she said, staring directly at her father. "Dad? Why would he share such dreadful things?" The family was staggered by Emily's revelation, trying to fit the pieces together. "This explains so much," her mother whispered in shock. Her father, filled with remorse, acknowledged his awareness of his daughter's vulnerability. "He held this over me," he confessed through clenched teeth, the burden of guilt and secrecy clearly visible. The revelation disrupted any pretense of normalcy as they grappled with the profound effects of Emily's disclosure. The police investigated deeper into the family's history, confirming the tragic secret that Emily's twin sister had perished in an unexpected accident over 2 decades ago, which was deemed accidental. Detective Harris informed them solemnly, "We need to look further into this man's involvement," he advised, as the reality of their long-suppressed grief resurfaced painfully. Emily's parents seemed deflated. Emily's unsettling admission had unearthed a hidden past, but as painful as the truth was, it signaled the beginning of her healing process. Supported by her caring mother and diligent sister Sarah, Emily commenced therapy sessions to address her trauma. "It's a long journey, but you're not alone," Dr. Martinez reassured her. Emily gazed at her mother, who reassured her. "We'll get through this together," as she embraced her tightly. This newfound openness was paving the way for healing their emotional scars. Despite the shocking revelations, a cautious sense of relief enveloped the family. Knowing the truth was distressing, yet it laid a solid groundwork for rebuilding their lives. Emily's mother appeared resolute, declaring, "We have each other, and that's how we'll overcome this," with firm resolve. Together with Sarah, they began the arduous task of reconstructing their lives. Although the road ahead was daunting, the possibility of progress sparked a hint of hope. Detective Harris ensured the family's safety with vigilant surveillance, promising, "We'll identify any additional threats." The visible police presence around their home became a reassuring comfort, despite his overwhelming guilt. Emily's father found some peace in this increased security, remarking, "We're in good hands." As he tried to reassure Emily, the oppressive atmosphere at their home started to dissipate, at least marginally, as they welcomed the security measures. With the perpetrator now detained, Emily's family slowly started to take back their lives. Therapy sessions continued, and Emily savored small delights in gradually resuming her routine. Dr. Martinez encouraged her, and the once pervasive fear gradually transformed into budding hope. Emily's father, still wrestling with his guilt, earnestly tried to remain engaged. The family's bond, though tested and strained, began to heal. The future, previously clouded in uncertainty, now shimmered with a trace of hope. After watching the story above, do you have any thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. If you enjoyed our video, please like, subscribe, and share our channel. That's all about today's stories. See you next time.